Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench. Today we're going to be doing another video on this Gravely Z34 that I picked up a few days ago. I went through it. I put the new magneto on, if you saw the last video, and the oil filter had been squirting oil all the way across out of the engine. So I pulled the oil filter apart. The O-ring at the top seemed like it was in good shape. I put it back on temporarily to run the motor and see if we were good. And the leak seemed to have stopped, so I went ahead and cut the grass. Just walking over to show you that I did cut the lawn. I cut all that. It only took a few minutes. And then when I came back and parked it, and it was knee high, when I came back and parked it, I noticed that there was oil all up under the shroud, and it was leaking oil underneath of it. And I believe, because I put the old filter back in, I believe the filter's damaged. But there's no way to tell at the moment because there's oil everywhere. I wiped up the oil from underneath of it, and it hit the deck, and it's kind of going under the engine and coming out on all around. And so I kind of wiped it up, and I went to start it, and this is what's happening. Let me go around to the other side and show you. Here's a starter. Okay, the Bendix will pop up when I hit the key, but then the starter itself is just spinning. Okay, and then I can push the Bendix back down. So it's pushing the Bendix up, and then the gears, the starter itself is spinning, but the top gear is not spinning. There's some friction material between those gears. It's kind of like a clutch plate. The plate goes up, pushes it up in place, and then acts like a clutch to turn it. And there's definitely oil up here. There's oil all up in through there. There's oil everywhere. So what I think happened, and there's even oil on top of the starter, what I think happened is that oil got up in there when I was riding it around for 10 minutes and got on that friction material. And just like if you get oil on clutch plates, they're wet and slippery, and they won't grab onto each other. So before I pull it apart, the first thing I'm going to do is take some carb cleaner, and I'm going to try spraying out the top of this. You don't want to put a lot in there, but again, if something's broke already, you can't break it anymore. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to spray some carb cleaner in there, let it spin, spray it a few times, and see if this will cut the oil and get it off of the pad, and maybe we can bring the starter back to life. Probably not, but it's worth a shot, and that's what I'm going to do now. All right, so before we talk about this anymore, you have to understand, especially on these big Kawasaki's, starter motors for these things range anywhere from $80 to $200, depending on if you buy OEM, if you buy aftermarket brands. There's dozens of companies that make them, and mainly there's a couple of companies that make them and a dozen companies that slap their sticker on it and call it their own. But these things are expensive. So if you have a situation where the Bendix is popping up and the starter is spinning, but the gear on top is not spinning, try this trick, because I'll show you right now. All I did was spray that out a bit. I sprayed it right across the top. You can probably see that there's no oil left on one side where the spray hit it. There's still some other oil, but watch this. I hit the key once or twice, and we're right back in business. What was happening? Like I thought, oil got up into the, basically we'll call it a clutch plate. It's a throw-out plate. And it was slippery and slimy, and causing the two surfaces to slide on each other instead of grip each other so it could spin, because that's what turns your starter. It's a friction plate. It throws the Bendix up, causes friction, makes it spin. So try that if your starter is acting like that. And I looked on YouTube, and there's dozens and thousands of videos on what happens if your starter just clicks but won't spin. What happens if it spins the motor for half a rotation and then stops, and it's your compression release valve, blah blah blah. But I couldn't find any on what if my starter is spinning and nothing's happening. So there you go, try that little trick. It costs 10 cents worth of carb cleaner. I'm going to spray some more on it and try and get it real good, make sure, and you may be able to save your starter. So thanks for stopping by. See you soon.